The wind swept across the crimson desert, carrying the scent of rain and dust. Beneath the setting sun, 12 Apache warriors stood in a circle, their faces painted, their spears planted firmly in the ground. Each of them was ready to fight for the honor of winning the hand of the most beautiful girl in their tribe, Ayana, the daughter of Chief Running Wolf. But Ayana's heart was already lost, not to an Apache warrior, but to a man who didn't belong to her world at all. He was Ethan Cole, a quiet cowboy who lived on the edge of the Apache lands. The stranger who brought water months earlier. Ayana had first seen Ethan when her tribe's horses were dying of thirst during a long drought. While others cursed the heavens, Ethan appeared one morning, leading a wagon full of water barrels. He didn't speak much. He simply said, "Your horses looked thirsty." The Apache men didn't trust him. He was white, a cowboy, one of the people who had taken their lands. Yet Ethan never asked for payment. He just filled the troughs, nodded respectfully to Chief Running Wolf, and rode away. Ayana watched him leave, his silhouette framed against the rising sun. And something in her heart stirred. Not love yet, but recognition. She saw gentleness in his silence, a kind of strength that didn't need to shout. 2. The Song of Two Worlds. Over the next months, Ethan returned many times. He brought medicines for the sick, salt for the winters, and once even a lost child who had wandered into the desert. Each time, Ayana would find an excuse to linger near him, to hand him a cup of water, to ask about the stars he loved to gaze at. He told her about constellations, about how the same sky watched over cowboys and Apaches alike. One night, as they sat near the edge of the village, he said quietly, "The stars don't care about skin, or tribes, or fences. They just shine." Ayana looked up, then whispered, "Maybe hearts are like that too." Ethan smiled. It was the first time she'd seen him smile, and it made her feel as if the whole desert had bloomed. 3. The challenge of honor. But love in those days was not simple. When Chief Running Wolf announced that 12 of the tribe's bravest warriors would compete for his daughter's hand, the village erupted in excitement. Each warrior was known for something: strength, courage, hunting skill, or wisdom. The chief said, "My daughter will be given to the one who proves most worthy, no, by heart, not just by blade." When Ethan heard of it, he quietly packed his things. He knew he had no right to stay. But as he saddled his horse, Ayana found him. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Are you leaving?" she asked. "I don't belong here," Ethan said softly. "Your people wouldn't want this." She stepped closer, trembling. "What about what I want?" He didn't answer. He simply tipped his hat and rode away. Ayana watched until the dust swallowed him whole. 4. The Trial of 12. The next day, the warriors gathered before the tribe. The first test was strength, lifting a boulder that only the gods could move. The second was endurance, walking across fire-heated stones. The third was wisdom, answering questions from the elders about life, loyalty, and love. One after another, the warriors proved their might, but in the final trial, compassion, they faltered. Chief Running Wolf led a wounded deer into the arena. "What would you do?" he asked. Most said they would kill it to end its suffering. One said he would use it for food. Only one young warrior said, "I would heal it if I could." The chief nodded thoughtfully but said nothing. That night a storm struck the valley. The river flooded, tearing through the camp. Horses broke loose. Tents fell. Children screamed. In the chaos, someone shouted, "The chief's daughter! She's gone." By the cowboy returns, Ayana had been caught near the riverbank when the storm hit. The current dragged her down, spinning her in darkness. She thought she was dying, but just before she blacked out, she felt strong arms pull her from the water. When she opened her eyes, she saw Ethan, soaked, bleeding, gasping for breath. He had returned. "Couldn't stay away," he murmured. He carried her to safety and then disappeared again into the storm to rescue others. By morning, when the sky cleared, half the camp lay in ruins, but everyone had survived. The chief stood on a hill, looking over his people. And beside him, bloodied and exhausted, was Ethan. 6. The Heart's Choice. When the trials resumed days later, the 12 warriors stood tall again, ready for the final decision. Ayana's father looked at her. "My daughter, it is time," he said. "Who do you choose?" The tribe fell silent. The drum stopped. Even the wind held its breath. Ayana's eyes swept across the 12 warriors, men of strength and courage, and then drifted to the edge of the circle, where Ethan stood quietly, hands in his pockets, ready to leave. She walked toward the warriors, then past them, and stopped in front of the cowboy. The crowd gasped. She lifted her hand, trembling but sure. "I choose the man who saved not just me but our people." and asked for nothing in return. The chief stared at Ethan for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, he placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder. A man's skin does not decide his honor. His heart does. The warriors bowed their heads. 7. A new dawn. Ethan tried to speak, but his throat tightened. Chief, I don't deserve this. You don't need to, said Running Wolf. You earned it. Ayana took his hand. Stay. And for the first time, Ethan didn't ride away. The tribe rebuilt the village with Ethan's help. He taught them how to use irrigation for farming. They taught him the Apache ways, the songs of the earth, the meaning of every wind. Slowly, the walls between their worlds crumbled. At their wedding, the chief said, today, 2 hearts make 1 bridge. Let no man break it. 8. The legend that followed. Years later, when travelers passed through the desert, they often spoke of a strange sight. A cowboy and an Apache woman riding side by side, her hair flowing like the river, his hand resting on hers. They said she once had 12 warriors fighting for her heart, but she chose the one who fought not for glory, but for goodness. Children in the tribe grew up hearing the story. They learned that true strength isn't shown by how many battles a man wins, but by how gently he holds another's heart. 9. The final gift. When the old chief grew sick, Ethan stayed by his side. One evening, the chief called him close. Do you know why I let my daughter choose you? Ethan shook his head. Because the night you brought water to our horses, I followed you back to your camp. I wanted to know your heart, and I saw you giving your last bread to a starving boy, a white boy. That's when I knew. A man who feeds a hungry child, even of his enemy, is a man the Creator himself would bless. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. I never knew you saw that. The chief smiled faintly. The Great Spirit sees what men do when no one watches. He passed away that night, his final breath whispering peace over the land. 10. The eternal bridge years turned to decades. Ethan and Ayana built a family. Children who spoke both English and Apache, who prayed to both the Creator and the God of the Plains. They became the living proof that love is stronger than hate, and kindness is more lasting than bloodlines. When Ayana's hair turned silver, Ethan would still call her my sunrise. And when Ethan's hands grew too weak to ride, Ayana led his horse beside her own. On the last evening of his life, as the desert glowed in gold, Ethan looked at her and whispered, remember the stars? They still don't care who we are. She smiled through her tears. And hearts still shine like them. He closed his eyes and the wind carried his spirit into the horizon. Ayana buried him under a lone oak tree where they had first watched the stars. She placed a stone at the grave, carved with words in both tongues. He fought no wars, but he won every heart. 11. The story lives on today. The legend of Ayana and the cowboy lives in the songs of the Apache people and the campfire tales of wandering cowhands. They say that on moonlit nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of 2 horses galloping together across the desert wind. One hoofbeat English, one Apache, forever in harmony. Because love, when pure and brave, doesn't just unite 2 people, it unites the world. Moral true strength lies not in conquest, but in compassion. True love crosses every border, every color, every past, and the greatest warriors are those who fight with their hearts, not their hands.